Have you ever held something so small, a trinket, a note, that it felt like it could unravel your entire world? Something that made your pulse quicken, not with joy, but with the weight of a secret you didn't ask for? I'm Ethan, 26, an auto mechanic scraping by in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia. One ordinary morning, I opened my mailbox and found a silver ring gleaming like it held a promise, tucked inside with a handwritten note. Keep this and come see me tonight. The address led to a mansion in Buckhead, a world far from my greasy shop. I thought it was a mistake, maybe a strange coincidence. But that ring, that note, they pulled me into a story I never saw coming, one that broke me open and pieced me back together. This is the Cheater's Diary, where real stories with gut-punching twists come to life. If this grabs you, hit like, subscribe, and let's dive in. I grew up in a scrappy corner of Atlanta, where the streets smelled of asphalt and fried chicken. And every neighbor knew your business. My dad was a mechanic, his hands always stained with oil, his laugh loud enough to drown out the roar of engines. I'd perch on a stool in his garage as a kid, watching him wrench bolts, memorizing the rhythm of his work. "Ethan," he'd say, "a car's like a person. Listen close, and it'll tell you what's wrong." He taught me everything: how to swap a carburetor, balance a tire, coax a dying engine back to life. After high school, college wasn't an option. Money was tight, and I wasn't about to drown in debt. So I took what Dad gave me and opened Ethan's Auto Fix, a small shop on the edge of town. It's nothing fancy: cracked concrete floors, a flickering neon sign, and a coffee maker that's older than me. But it's mine. The work is steady enough. I spend my days elbow deep in engines, replacing brakes, patching tires, chatting with customers about the weather or the Braves' latest game. It's predictable, comforting in its monotony. But it's also lonely sometimes. I'm the guy who fixes things, always dependable, always there. But when the shop closes, it's just me, a microwave dinner, and the hum of my tiny apartment. I don't talk about that much, not with my buddy Mike, who helps at the shop, not with my sister, who's off in Savannah with her kids. It's easier to keep moving, keep fixing, than to dwell on what's missing. That Tuesday morning started like any other. The Georgia sun was already baking the pavement, and the shop smelled of motor oil and burnt coffee. I wiped my hands on a rag and shuffled to the mailbox out front, expecting the usual stack of bills and junk flyers. But there, nestled between an electric bill and a pizza coupon, was a small black velvet box. My first thought was that someone had dropped it by mistake. I glanced around, nobody on the street, just the distant hum of traffic. I popped the box open, and there it was. A silver ring, etched with delicate swirls, catching the light like it was alive. Tucked inside was a folded note, the paper soft and scented faintly with something floral, like jasmine. The handwriting was elegant, looping, "Keep this ring, Ethan. Come to 1270 West Paces Ferry Road, 8 p.m. Olivia." No last name, no phone number, just an address in Buckhead, the kind of place where people drive Porsches and sip martinis for breakfast. I stood there, the ring cool against my palm, my stomach twisting. Who was Olivia? How did she know my name? Was this some kind of scam? My mind raced through possibilities. Maybe a customer left it, or it was a prank from Mike. But the note felt personal, deliberate. I slipped it into my pocket and went back to work, trying to focus on a faulty alternator. But the ring burned a hole in my jeans. Every few minutes, I'd touch it, half expecting it to vanish. By noon, curiosity had me in a chokehold. I Googled the address, a sprawling modern mansion in Buckhead, worth more than my shop and my life savings combined. This wasn't my world. I should have tossed the ring, ignored the note. But something, maybe boredom, maybe a flicker of adventure, pushed me to say yes. That evening, I showered off the day's grime, swapped my oil-stained shirt for a clean flannel, and drove my rattling Chevy to Buckhead. The streets changed as I got closer. Cracked sidewalks gave way to manicured lawns, rusty sedans to sleek Teslas. The house loomed at the end of a quiet road, all sharp angles and floor-to-ceiling glass, surrounded by ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss. My truck looked like a stray dog in this neighborhood. I parked, heart thumping, and walked up the stone path. The ring sat heavy in my pocket, the note folded beside it. I pressed the doorbell, the chime echoing like a warning. Olivia. She was maybe 35, tall and poised, with short blonde hair that glowed under the porch light. Her green eyes were sharp, like they could see right through me. She wore a teal silk dress that hugged her frame, elegant but not flashy, like she didn't need to try. "Ethan," she said, her voice smooth and warm. "Thanks for coming." I fumbled, holding up the velvet box like it was evidence. "I got this. Your ring. Is this a mistake?" She smiled, a slow, knowing curve of her lips. "No mistake. Come in, I'll explain." Stepping into her house felt like crossing into another dimension. The foyer was all white marble and soft lighting, with a staircase curling up to a second floor. The living room stretched out, vast and pristine, a white leather sofa, abstract paintings in bold reds and blues, a glass coffee table that probably cost more than my truck. It smelled faintly of lavender and cedar, clean and expensive. Olivia led me to a sleek kitchen, where a bottle of red wine sat open on the counter. She poured 2 glasses, handing me one. The crystal felt foreign in my calloused hands. "I saw you at your shop last week," she said, leaning against the island. "My car's brakes were shot. You fixed them fast, didn't even gouge me. I wanted to thank you." I blinked, trying to place her. I vaguely remembered a silver BMW, a woman in sunglasses who paid in cash. "So, you sent a ring?" I asked, half laughing. Her eyes sparkled. "It's not just a ring, Ethan. It's an invitation. I want you to come back, not for cars, but to spend time together." My face burned. Was she flirting? Joking? I searched her expression, but she was unreadable, her smile soft but deliberate. "Keep the ring," she said, her fingers brushing mine as she closed my hand around the box. "If you want to see me again, wear it and come back." Before I could respond, she stepped closer, her perfume wrapping around me. "No pressure," she added, but her eyes said otherwise. I left in a daze, the ring back in my pocket, the wine glass barely touched. Driving home, Atlanta's lights blurred past, but all I could see was her face, that smile, those eyes. My apartment felt smaller than ever when I got back. Peeling paint, a sagging couch, the hum of a fridge that never shut up. I set the ring on my nightstand and stared at it, its silver glinting under the cheap lamp. Who was she? Why me? I'm just a guy who fixes cars, not someone who gets invited to mansions by women like her. I told myself to forget it, to drop the ring in a drawer and move on. But I couldn't. It was like she'd cast a spell, and I was already caught. For 3 days, I fought it. I buried myself in work, replacing a head gasket, balancing tires, joking with Mike about the Falcons' losing streak. But every quiet moment, my hand drifted to my pocket, touching the ring. It wasn't just curiosity now, it was need. I wanted to see her again, to feel that rush, to step back into her world. On Friday night, I gave in. I slipped the ring onto my pinky, it fit perfectly, like it was made for me, and drove to Buckhead. My palms were sweaty, my heart hammering as I rang her bell. Olivia answered, casual this time in a cream cashmere sweater and jeans, her hair loose around her shoulders. "You're wearing it," she said, her smile lighting up the foyer. She led me to the living room, where jazz played softly from hidden speakers, a saxophone weaving through the air. We sat on the sofa, a bottle of wine between us. She asked about my shop, my life, and for once, I didn't feel like just the grease-stained guy from the suburbs. I told her about Dad, how he'd whistle while he worked, how I started the shop to prove I could be more than a dropout. She listened, her eyes locked on mine, nodding like every word mattered. She shared, too, bits about her job planning high-end events, how she moved to Atlanta after a messy chapter she didn't elaborate on. Her voice was calm, but there was a flicker of something, sadness maybe, beneath it. That night stretched into hours, the wine loosening my nerves. We laughed about the worst customers we dealt with. Hers, a CEO who demanded a gala in 48 hours. Mine, a guy who swore his car was cursed because the AC broke. When I left, the ring felt lighter, like it belonged on my finger. "Come back soon," she said at the door, her hand grazing my arm. I drove home, my chest buzzing, replaying every blur of stolen evenings. Olivia's texts became my lifeline. Tonight, 8, I'd drop everything, shower off the shop's grime, and drive to her. Her house was my escape, a bubble where the world's weight lifted. We'd cook together. Well, she'd cook, I'd chop vegetables badly, laughing over my clumsy knife skills. We'd sprawl on her sofa, watching old Bogart films, her legs tucked under her, my arm brushing hers. She'd tease me about my taste in music. Apparently, my love for 90s grunge was tragic, and I'd fire back about her jazz obsession. It felt easy, natural, like we'd known each other forever. But it wasn't all perfect. Little things nagged at me, like scratches on a polished surface. A man's jacket in her hall closet, navy wool, too big for her. A bottle of Creed cologne on her dresser, sharp and masculine. Once, I spotted a pair of loafers under a chair, polished but scuffed. "Whose are these?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Old stuff," she said, waving it off. "Ex-boyfriend. I haven't cleaned out everything." Her smile was quick, but her eyes darted away. I wanted to believe her. God, I did. But a knot formed in my gut. Who leaves an ex's cologne out? Why was her house so sterile? No photos, no personal touches, like a stage set? I started noticing other things. She never talked about her past, not really. When I asked about her family, she'd say, "Oh, they're far away," and change the subject. Her phone would buzz sometimes, and she'd silence it without looking. I told myself it was nothing, that I was paranoid. After all, she was here with me, laughing, pouring me wine, resting her head on my shoulder during late-night talks. I opened up to her in ways I never had with anyone. I told her about the pressure of keeping the shop afloat, how the bank's calls kept me up at night, how I sometimes felt like I was failing Dad's legacy. She'd listen, her fingers tracing circles on my wrist, and say, "You're doing more than you think, Ethan. You're building something real." Her words were like air to a drowning man. One night, sprawled on her rug with takeout boxes scattered around, I asked, "Why me, Olivia? You could have anyone, someone who fits in this world." She set down her chopsticks, her eyes soft but intense. "Because you don't pretend," she said. "You're not chasing status or playing games. You're just you." My heart swelled, but doubt lingered. Was that enough? Was I enough? I was falling for her, hard, and it terrified me. I'd never felt this way, alive, exposed, like every moment with her was a high I couldn't quit. But with that high came fear. What were we? A fling? Something more? She never defined it, and I was too scared to ask. The cracks grew harder to ignore. One evening, I found a men's razor in her bathroom, tucked behind a candle. Another time, a silver watch in a drawer, heavy and expensive. "More X stuff?" I asked, my voice tighter than I meant. She laughed, but it was thin. "You're observant, aren't you?" "Yeah, old junk." I nodded, but the knot in my stomach tightened. I started lying awake next to her, her breathing soft and even, while my mind churned. Who was she really? Why did her house feel like a hotel, beautiful but empty? Why did I feel like a guest in her life, not a partner? I finally confronted her one night, the air thick with candlelight and tension. We were on her sofa, a half-empty bottle of Pinot Noir between us. I set my glass down, my hands shaking. "Olivia, I need to know more about you. Your life, your past. Are you really alone here? What am I to you?" The words spilled out, raw and desperate. She froze, her glass halfway to her lips. For the first time, her poise cracked. She set the glass down, pulling her knees to her chest. "Ethan," she said softly, "I like what we have. It's simple. I don't want to complicate it." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were guarded, like a door slamming shut. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but her hand found mine, her touch a tether. "Can't this be enough?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was too afraid of breaking whatever this was. So I stayed. We fell back into our rhythm, dinners, movies, late nights tangled in her sheets. But the joy was tainted now, like wine gone sour. Every time I drove to her house, I felt a pull, not just toward her, but toward something dangerous, something I couldn't name. I was in love, or at least I thought I was. The word felt too big, too fragile, but it was there, heavy in my chest. I'd watch her sleep, her face soft in the moonlight, and wonder if I was a fool. I'd leave before dawn, sneaking through her quiet neighborhood, my truck's rumble the only sound. Each time, I felt smaller, like I was after a brutal day at the shop. I'd spent hours wrestling with a rusted exhaust system, my hands scraped raw, my mood sour. I texted Olivia as I locked up. "Long day, you free tonight?" I expected her usual quick reply, the one that made my heart lift. But nothing came. I waited, checking my phone between sips of gas station coffee. An hour passed. Then, finally, a message. Ethan, don't come. My husband's back in town. Husband. The word was a blade slicing through me. I stared at the screen, my breath shallow. I read it again, then again, willing it to change. Husband. No ring on her finger, no photos on her walls, no hint in her stories. Nothing. My hands trembled as I gripped the phone, anger and shame crashing over me like a wave. I'd built a world around her, convinced myself she was mine, and now I saw the truth. I was nothing. A secret, a side piece, a reckless escape from her real life. I sat in my truck, the engine off, the world silent except for the blood pounding in my ears. I wanted to scream, to call her, to drive to her house and demand answers. How could she lie like that? How could she let me fall for her, knowing she was never mine? But I didn't. I couldn't. The humiliation was too raw, like a wound I couldn't touch. I deleted her number, erased our texts, every "see you at 8" and "miss you" gone in a tap. I drove home, the city lights blurring through tears I refused to acknowledge. Back in my apartment, I opened the drawer where I'd started keeping the ring when I wasn't wearing it. It sat there, mocking me, its shine dulled by my fingerprints. I remembered the first night, her smile, the promise of something extraordinary. Now it was just metal, a lie I'd carried. I walked to the kitchen, opened the trash can, and dropped it in. The thud was final, like a door closing. The next few weeks were a fog. I threw myself into work, fixing cars with mechanical precision, but my heart wasn't in it. Mike noticed, asking, "You good, man? You look like hell." I shrugged it off. Just tired, but I was unraveling. I couldn't eat, barely slept. Every creak of my apartment sounded like her laugh. Every shadow was her face. I was furious, at her for lying, at myself for believing. I'd seen the signs, the jacket, the cologne, the razor, her silences. I'd ignored them because I wanted the fantasy, the version of Olivia who chose me. But that wasn't love. It was desperation dressed up as romance. I didn't tell anyone, not Mike, not my sister, not even the stray cat that hung around the shop. The shame was too heavy. I'd crossed lines I swore I never would, let myself become someone I didn't recognize. But slowly, the fog lifted. One night, 6 weeks later, I sat on my couch, a beer in hand, staring at Atlanta's skyline through my window. The city glowed, alive and indifferent. I wasn't angry anymore, just awake. Olivia was a lesson, a scar I'd carry but wouldn't let define me. She'd shown me what I was capable of, falling hard, losing myself, but also what I deserved, honesty, respect, a love that didn't hide in the dark. I made a promise that night, to myself and no one else. I'd never again let someone pull me into a secret. I'd ask the hard questions, even when they scared me. I'd protect my heart, not by closing it off, but by knowing its worth. Life moved on, the shop stayed busy, the bills got paid, and I started laughing again. Real laughs, with Mike over beers, with customers over dumb car stories. I never saw Olivia again. I stayed away from Buckhead, not out of fear, but because I didn't need to look
here
back.
I am,
Back
the
in my
chapter was
world,
closed.
a little scarred, but a lot wiser. That ring, that secret, it taught me something I'll never forget. Real love doesn't hide in shadows or thrive on half-truths. It's built on honesty, even when it's messy, even when it hurts. I ignored the red flags, the jacket, the cologne, her silences, because I wanted the fairy tale. But fairy tales don't exist, and I'm done chasing them. From now on, I choose truth. I choose me, and I choose connections that don't leave me questioning my worth. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been pulled into a secret that turned your world upside down? Maybe you saw the warning signs, a dodged question, a strange vibe, but kept going because you wanted to believe. Drop your story in the comments below. I'm all ears, and so is this community. Let's unpack those moments together. What did they teach you? And if my story hit a nerve, don't just sit there. Smash that like button to show some love. Subscribe to The Cheater's Diary and hit the bell so you never miss another raw, real tale of heartbreak and hard-won lessons. Share this video with your friends, your group chats, heck, even your nosy neighbor. Let's get everyone in on the drama. We're building something special here, and we need you to keep the fire going. Catch you in the next story, where another twist is waiting to blow your mind.